Alright, what's good YouTube? What's good stream? So we watching this rich man versus poor man. Um, what I'm hoping is that it's just like a conversation about the different worlds they live in and the difference in mindset, so y'all can really see like in real time how most people think versus how the select few, the 1%. I ain't even saying they 1%, but I'm saying they probably still ahead of most people if they consider rich men. I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, I'm just hoping we can see a different in mindset. So when you look at yourself, you can call yourself out in different areas where you may see like, hey, I need to get this shit together. I need to lock in. I need to tighten up, whatever. So we just gonna jump into it.
So the thing is, if people actually research credit and learn how to build it properly, it's easy to get money. And the cool thing about credit is, if you mess and you fuck up, you can just let it go to collections and spew it all out anyway.
Yeah, there's someone that suffers at the end of that
No. I was making money and I was paying my bill every single month. So I wasn't just buying like Beats by Dre.
But where did it go wrong? Because, I mean, with respect, you're on the other side now.
Just side note, like I be hearing people talk about credit a lot. It is a lot of ways that you can leverage credit and use it to improve your life and go further in life. But as far as actually making money, getting money with credit, I don't see. All I see with credit is just ways to make it look like you might have some money, but it's not actually getting you nowhere. You feel me? Like, and then a lot of influencers be talking about credit too. Like, you gotta understand, it's the difference between having money, like having money come in, and just being able to borrow money without working for it. You still gotta pay that back. So if you using credit, then you would use it like you would your regular money to invest in things that will pay you. Like if you was to buy a house and you rent it out. If you use credit to do that, then you use credit to get money. But you don't need no course or nothing to learn how to do that. So that's pretty much what I'm saying. Credit ain't no different than regular money when it comes to investments. It's not some special magic hack that's gonna make you rich overnight. But you can use it to invest in your ventures and what you want to do instead of coming out of pocket. That's cool.
Step forward if you've made less than 1K in 2024. Less than 10K in 2024. Less than 40K in 2024. Less than 60K in 2024. Less than 300K in 2024. Less than 600K in 2024.
Hey there, my webcrafting wizards. In today's episode, I want to show you a cool new way you can make some extra money as a designer or a developer.
Less than 5 million in 2024. Less than 9 million in 2024.
We're clapping for the rich guy?
Rich people should be taxed more.
I remember back when, America was first starting and the taxes were looked at as a privilege.
Did he say he remembered back when America was first starting?
Like, it was something that people looked forward to. People,
When he was back
used it
in
as a badge of
George
honor that they had made it to a point where they could use their success to benefit the rest of society. It was like,
I ain't gonna lie, he looked like one of them niggas that would have been in the back. One of them old photos, old paintings.
and that they use as like a stamp of, I've made it, I've done my part, I've become so successful that now I can give back at such an extraordinary level. Now, this is also dependent on taxes being used, in the correct way to like actually benefit society and not, go to corrupt politicians. But overall, like, especially as someone who's considered like upper middle class, rich, someone who's considered wealthy, I have no problem and think that I should be taxed higher. I purposely don't take advantage of tax loopholes that I could, even though it'd be very easy to, because I would rather that money, instead of it, being saved and going directly to myself, I'd rather go to fund school systems and, other institutions that can't get funding other ways.
Government is, captured by special interest lobby groups that lobby on behalf of their constituents, corporations, and they write the tax code. And the tax code is written in a way that benefits corporations and it disadvantages working class people. And the very fact that you can tax an income, for instance, and not tax what they call unrealized gains is a great injustice in our society.
But then you can take a loan against it and then profit from the loan.
You can buy Twitter off of your, with a leveraged buyout by using your unrealized gains as collateral. But when it comes time to tax those unrealized gains, oh, sorry, they're unrealized. You don't have it. It's not actually materially a part of it.
So I don't know that I'm on board with the taxing unrealized gains, but the big thing that had me walking out here is you constantly see that like billionaires, millionaires, et cetera, they pay a lower marginal tax rate than like teachers and stuff. And that is like the biggest thing to me that like never quite made sense. So, like if we're all kind of in this system together, why are we not at least all paying the same percentage of our?
Because we're not in this system together. It's two tiered. There's a separate rules for the rich as there are for the poor, and the rich play by a different game.
Listen by the disagreeers.
That's okay.
You hear that a lot. And it's honestly probably true. The rich do play by a whole different game. They got whole different rules because they can hold countries by their nuts like this. Like, you gotta understand, they need us in like mass numbers, but they want to cater more to people who get money. One, because they're a part of the people who get money. Two, because they the ones that really push money into the economy. Like, if we didn't have rich people sending money down the loophole, down to us, we wouldn't have no money neither. Because us as poor people by nature, we don't bring as much value. So when we get the money that rich people pay us, we spend it right back with rich people. Versus like with Walmart. You may work for Walmart, get paid, and then you'll turn right back around and go back shopping at Walmart, grocery shopping or whatever you need to do. Versus if you was to go and get your own food and groceries, whatever you buy, off of a farm or however you got it, and then sold it yourself, now you're the source. Now people come shop with you. Now you done joined the rich. You can't be broke. Well, I gotta be careful how I say this. You can't be broke when you have something of value to give. But I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna let them talk a little bit more, and I'm gonna speak more on that, because I really want to get deeper into this.
The reason why I didn't step forward, which was, should rich people pay more taxes? If I could know with certainty that my taxes, for paying more of them, would go to benefit schools or homeless veterans or, struggling single moms or, whatever the causes are, I'd be glad to. My concern is that once that money's gone, it can go off to fund war crimes in other countries and bomb villages to take their oil and all this other bullshit. And when I keep more of my money, like there's a school maybe like 12 minutes from my house where I paid all the lunch debt for that school, and that was fine for me to do, but had I not had that money to pay that lunch debt because it went to the government, I don't know if that would go to that school or if it would go bomb some country, right? So that is my sort of this is the implication where I don't trust the U.S. government to use the money in the same benevolent way that I might if I had more of it to then do the programs and the passions that I have to help people.
And the reason that we don't trust the U.S. government, because I don't trust it either, is because of who controls the government. And who controls the government are capitalists. So it goes back to capitalism. It would be great for our money to be used to fund schools and all these programs, wonderful. But they're not. You're right. They're going to incorporate the weapons industry instead.
I think another thing, like a misconception a lot of people have is
the rich don't pay taxes at all. If you look at corporate like payroll tax, like that's like the taxes that we pay. By far in America, corporations pay the most taxes in payroll. Like that is like what, like for example, but it is coming from other people's checks. But we factor that into their salary, right? We know that we're gonna have to pay taxes on that. That's one thing to think about. I do think that the system is set up for the rich to just make way more money, especially with the unrealized gains, like leveraging that.
We like to say, like, we want everyone to pay the same percent, same stuff like that. But it's not like rich people, massive business owners use less government services. They are using these roads way more. They are using all these things so much more than the average person who just needs to drive to work. If you need a million trucks going places, like, it wouldn't be unfair for these people to pay more because they use more, because they're bigger entities.
I think sometimes people are mad and they're angry about wealth inequality, and they think that like taxing people will solve wealth inequality, and like I think it might solve it on like a numbers basis, but I just don't know that that's the right thing.
Okay, so the money that the government doesn't receive by taxing billionaires and multinational corporations, they have to come up with the money still. So what do? They borrow it. They borrow it from corporations when they could have just taxed them. And when you borrow from billionaires and these large corporations, you then have to pay them interest. The government has to pay all this interest on the money that they should have just taxed them in the first place. So that's why you have 30 trillion. I mean, the national debt is a scam in and of itself. The fact that people bring that up as a talking point is ludicrous.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is an app and website that is on a mission to raise the bar on journalism in a time of media bias and mistrust. Their team of journalists believe that unbiased news should be the standard and not just the exception. So they report down the middle with facts, delivering news without bias, filter, or spin. Plus, their Media Mist tool allows you to discover news that's being underreported or not even reported at all by different sides of mainstream media. And that's why we're so happy to be partnering with Straight Arrow News. The work they're doing gives us a complete picture of the news straight from our phones and tablets with their app. Go to san.com/middleground or check the link in the description to check it out. By clicking that link, you're not just supporting this channel, you're also supporting a group of journalists that are raising the bar on news and focusing on serving you unbiased, straight facts. Thanks again to Straight Arrow News for partnering with us on this episode. Now, let's get into it.
To get started in data analytics, you don't need previous experience or a degree. The Google Data Analytics Certificate will teach you to code in R, to code in SQL, data visualization, and learning how to problem solve like an analyst would. At the end of the day, being a data analyst is about communication. It's the #1 soft skill that you'll pick up. And so learning how to take the information and make it accessible to a lot of people is at the core of being a strong data analyst. Ready to get started? Enroll today.
I could never go on vacation. Running my renovation and contracting business took up all of my time until I found Jobber. Last year, I actually headed out of the country and went to the...
My bad.
Men should be the breadwinner of the family. Can the agreeers please step forward?
I grew up
Nobody
in
agree
a
with that?
pretty traditional Muslim household, and it's like very common for like the man to kind of be the breadwinner, and with that tradition I grew up, so I have very strong beliefs in that. I do think that there are abstractions, like there are times where women are the breadwinners and vice versa, but I don't think that it should, like for me, like the way that I've grown up, the way that my family's grown up for many years, many generations, it's been a tradition that like the man is very responsible for taking care of his family and the financials of kind of this unit, and I don't plan on changing that. So it's something I just believe in. But that doesn't mean there's room for abstractions. There are people can switch it up. But yeah, that's what I believe.
Can the disagreeers please step forward?
The reason why I disagreed is because I think you should just do whatever works for your relationship. In my relationship personally, yes, I'm the one who does the providing and the protecting, and that works great for us. But that doesn't mean it works well for everybody else. And I mean, if you're dating a boss lady who works in tech and she makes like 500 grand a year, like you don't need to stretch yourself out. If you're...
I ain't gonna lie. As bad as I want to be rich, if I meet a girl that makes 100 million, 50 million, a few million a year, I can't say I wouldn't. I can't say I wouldn't still do what I'm doing, but like, I just want that, bro. I'd let a girl take care of me. You feel? I'd let a girl take care of me. You rich? I'm at the house. I'm cooking. I'm cleaning. I'm doing whatever I gotta do. This bay right here, I ain't going nowhere. We locked in. But I like what I do. Even though I'm not making money off of it, I still create for fun. Like, I just like to see the results of what I make. That's enough for me. That's why I do what I do.
Like, you work in a factory making 36K.
I agree with you 100%. I think you should do whatever works best for your relationship. But I notice now in modern dating, a lot of women have this expectation on, oh, the man should be doing this, and that. And I don't necessarily like that because these expectations put you in a weird position, especially if you feel like you're not really receiving much in return.
In my current relationship, I was so upfront with my partner. I said, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm not going to be able to be the sole provider. I want to be a high school teacher, maybe a college teacher. That's my passion. That's what I want to do. That's how I want to give back to the world. And she said, I
love teaching as a profession. Teachers are underpaid only because they work in schools. Like with the online marketplace, if more teachers were to move online and we had like digital education, I feel like there would be so much more money in it for teachers. Like they could get so much more for what they do and be so much more appreciated. They could find people that actually want to learn what they're teaching, so they'll have engaged students. Teaching would really be one of the top careers in the world if it was moved online instead of school. And I genuinely believe that.
love that about you. That's one of my favorite things about you. And we're going to make that work. I'm going to work. She's going to work. And
people need knowledge. They need to know how to do things, whether it's simple things that you learn in school or if it's a skill people want to learn that you know and you can teach it to them. Like, people need teachers.
we got to get through it somehow. It's really hard to survive in this capitalist society right now with having just one provider. I mean, I think everyone on this side of the room probably can if you're the rich man, but a lot of us, we need two incomes. It's just not possible for the man to be the sole provider, breadwinner.
The reason that I put the expectation on myself is because, like, I also expect other expectations of my wife, right? Like, I'm not going to marry a woman that's not going to be able to take care of my children, right? Like, I think that's one expectation that I have. And then once again, this is not an arbitrary thing where it's like, it has to be this way or that way. It's just what I believe.
I think we all have our expectations in relationships, and as long as we communicate those with a partner and are super upfront with that, there's no problem.
I only disagree with the characterization of the premise that men should be the breadwinner, as if we should be conforming to traditional gender roles in this society.
I think there's a term that I learned maybe last year is financial compatibility, and I think that's one thing that is really important in a relationship, because if you're making a lot of money and your partner isn't really in, because I personally think that in a relationship both people should work, both people should be just contributing. But if someone's making a lot more than the other one, then it will always feel just incompatible, because it'll always cause the other person to feel, oh, like I'm paying more.
I feel like when it comes to financial compatibility, a man that makes more than a woman can always work. A woman that makes more than a man, it can work, but that man would usually either have to have some type of social status that makes the woman still want him, or the woman herself, for some reason, whatever reason, can't get access to the caliber of man that's around her level. So she just chooses to accept someone lower. I'm not saying that she settles or that she doesn't want who she's with, but she chooses to accept someone that might not be at her caliber, simply for whatever choice she chose to make.
I'm contributing more, I'm working more.
I was gonna say, I think there's a bit of nuance there. I'm in a polyamorous relationship where I make significantly more than my partners. One of them is RBT, so they work, minimum wage, working for schools, working grueling hours with kids with disabilities, and so it's a very hard life for them. And we've been together for over 3 years now. And there's never been a sense of me putting myself and my income above them, or using that as a, hey, I'm going to leave the household and I'm going to make the decisions on my own because I'm the primary one bringing in the significant, revenue into the household. It definitely comes down to,
You know he getting money. He got multiple girls at the crib. Well, he ain't say they was girls, but you feel me? He got multiple at the crib. You know, he living good. He having his way right now.
to the relationship itself, because they knew me when I was working for minimum wage jobs. And so because of that, just because I'm in a place now, tomorrow I could have nothing, and I know that the love would still be there and a relationship would still be strong. So while there can be definitely situations where an income, inequality would impact a relationship, I think it speaks more so to the depth and the strength of the relationship itself, rather than the inequality being the main driver for any sort of issues in that relationship.
Have you never felt that it's just kind of unfair that you're putting so much in and the other, like, I'm just generally
Yeah, no, not at all. Because I've been in relationships where I was the one who was working at Chick-fil-A making like $9.25 an hour, and I was like, my girlfriend had like a $60,000 job in DC, and I was like, oh my God, like, thank you so much for like taking me out to dinner or something. And so that mentality of that reciprocity of like, if I'm going to be there for you emotionally, you're helping me with my finances, we're in this together as a partnership. That's what's really carried those relationships through, and I've never, again, I know that everything could disappear tomorrow, so there's no feeling of, well, I'm doing all this, why are you not putting in as much effort? Like, they're working super hard, and so just because they didn't have the same connections or opportunities that I had means nothing to the fact that they're, like, worth less or something to me.
To piggyback off that too, for me in my relationships, I've always made more. It didn't really tend to bother me. I think people are driven by passion, and not all careers pay the same. But if the person I'm with is really passionate about what they're doing, I admire that.
That speaks a lot to me, because ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be like so rich and successful to where like my wife didn't have to work if she didn't want to. My kids could do whatever the hell they wanted to do. And so I kind of did that with my ex when I was thriving. Like, we didn't have kids. I got an episode for that. You know what I mean, right? But not, we didn't have kids, but it was just the fact that my ex didn't have to work, and I helped put her in that position. So that made me feel good. I think a lot of people in relationships, there's an ego thing with it. So like, if the man ain't making enough money, he feels less than a man, and then he treats his girl a different way, and then that creates problems. Or his girl don't respect him or treats him a different way, and then that creates problems. I think as long as you're doing what works for your relationship, like old boy said right here, right? I think that's what matters most.
There's a cultural issue. It's also like an antiquated approach, right? Like, what is the term, trad wife? Or traditional. Yeah, like.
Or traditional.
Yeah.
Which I don't even care for. Like, I don't, like, bro, like.
Hold up, I'll be right back. Y'all gonna listen to the fish tank or whatever for a little segment?
Like, in all my, I've been in 5 different committed relationships. But my whole thing is, I don't expect my girl to cook for me. I don't expect her to clean for me. I don't expect you to do nothing for me except be yourself. And as long as, like, we good, we good.
No, I think what you're touching on is that, and what you've touched on as well, is there's all these different ways that relationships can work. And I think they can work in every way. I want a different relationship than what you want, but both can absolutely work. And there are pitfalls for both too, and you just have to avoid those pitfalls, of course, yeah.
You know, I'm married, I have 2 kids, and I would say have more of a traditional relationship, and I love it, and it's wonderful, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. but I know that what works for me doesn't necessarily work for everybody in this room.
I don't know about you guys too, but like, so in relationships I've been in, I have made more than my partner, but if they did make more than me, I would be stoked.
Yeah.
I would love to say right, like, who would get mad about that?
I will put on the maid dress and I will mop the floor.
I'll be the coolest house husband ever.
Yeah, it is.
Walking home with a little glass of wine, I'll be there like, can I get you anything? Like, would you like to take your shoes off, give you a little massage, whatever you need.
I kind of love spoiling my wife and my kids. I mean, partly because I grew up, I mean, my mom was making $10 an hour raising 3 kids. So the fact that now I'm in a position where I can, spoil the people that I'm with, I kind of love doing that.
I know I'm not going to be able to spoil her with like a million diamond rings and stuff like that, but I can spoil her in other ways. I can make dinner for us. I can plan things for us.
There's balance, so someone could be supporting financially, but someone else is supporting emotionally. And I think as long as you're aware of that balance, that could be like a secret to a healthy relationship. But if that balance kind of fades out in the dark, then that's when,
Yeah. In my tradition, we have a very strong belief that like marriage is like a fortress. It's like as you're one pillar of your wife is another. And in America, we have this conception of like love marriages. You marry people you love. In Islam, we have a much more like deeper sense of that, in the sense of like it's not just love. It's family ties. Like your family and their family are now one unit.
Families are getting
And so you have like multiple pillars, and then you have like, if you're religious, right, you have like this ethical and moral compass that aligns with the other, and that's another compass. And then like, can you benefit each other in knowledge as well? So there's many other pillars.
I love that too, because a lot of times people look at marriage nowadays like they want it to have the deep meaning, but they don't even understand like it's more than just two people when you get married. Like it's really a family. Like it's my mom and your mom, how they get along, how our kids might get along. Like it's all of that. It's not even my place to talk about that right now. I'll leave it at that. But anytime I believe something about what I'm hearing, I'm going to speak on it. I'm going to always speak my mind. But yeah, I feel like marriage is a lot deeper than what it's made out to be. People say things are deep, but then they'll only talk about surface level things. They don't even really get into, like, just talking about emotions isn't deep type. Like, you gotta really go into mindsets, how you think, how you analyze, like, how you perceive, like, I gotta do a whole video just on, like, how I think about certain things. Because it's a lot. I'd have to literally, I'm gonna do that. I'll do it.
So if one breaks, there's another to stand on.
Becoming rich is easier now than it ever has been.
Did you know you can increase your revenue with Snapchat ads? Just ask Manscaped.
We have seen...
I hope this one is true. I hope this one is true. I believe it is, because now we have online, the digital marketplace. So businesses have become a lot more saturated overall, but there's still so much money in just about any business you could run. So I definitely believe that with things being moved online, becoming rich is definitely easier now than it's ever been.
I grew up pretty much at the poverty line, so the opportunities that my mom had were so limited to compare to what the opportunities that I have today. And, I was able to, frankly, make millions and millions of dollars in my 20s because of all the opportunities that we have here in the West and in America, and especially in modern times, where if we just zoom out, a lot of those opportunities weren't available. Even just like 50 years ago, it would be different.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I think not only is there opportunity, but the internet has just enabled us to learn anything we want.
I think the fact that you can just be making money off of your laptop just anywhere in the world is revolutionary.
I think there's been a bit of an explosion of non-ethical ways to make money. I feel like that's been a big thing in recent times. Making money off the backs of others has become easier than it ever has been, I think. Like, you can just start a podcast and just, like, on women the whole time, and you'll just, like, blow up and go crazy. I think, like, in late-stage capitalism, there are so many exploits and things you can do, and I'm not saying you guys have done that specifically, I don't know your stories, but, like, you can be a landlord and just start charging exorbitant amounts of rent. That's why it's so unaffordable to live, especially here in California. Like, there are so many evil ways that people can make money that I think it's easier now than it ever has been if you have
sort of sketching. Is a landlord always an evil way to make money too?
Honestly, not always, but I would love to see society move away from from housing being a form of investment.
So I am a real estate developer, and I just bought a piece of land to build a house. The piece of land just for the dirt, $735,000. Just the permitting, just like literally the fee that I had to pay to get the right to build on that property that I own, 110 grand. It's challenging to offer affordable housing when you're already $800,000 deep and you haven't even put shovel to dirt.
I don't put as much blame on the individual as I do on the systems. I really
I would love to back you up on that. So I actually have a pretty strong thesis on this. So like, I bought.
How do you get charged for land that people can't own? Like how does the government just say, okay, we own this land now you have to pay for it? Land that they probably never even touched themselves in real life. Like, never even seen in real life, just seen on the computer screen. How can you tell me that I have to pay for this land now? That's so stupid to me. But I understand it, but it's still stupid. I feel like it's another way to do that. Especially for how much they be charging. Like, it's a lot easier to make money online now, but most people aren't taking advantage of the opportunities. So for a regular person living a regular life, owning land and having a house built, that's something everyone should be able to do regardless of how much money they make. Like, the system in that way is so stupid to me. But I digress.
Property and stuff before, and I realized like the system just favors the rich, and the reason for that is because of interest. Like, this is one thing I tie this back to religion often, but like in Islam, it's like you're not allowed to mess with interest, and the reason for that is because it favors the rich in a way where it pulls away from economic gain from society, and it's like, hey, because I have $100,000, I can pull $1 million of leverage. Well, if you only have 10,000, you can only pull 100,000. And now what's happening today is like these companies like BlackRock and these big institutional holdings, because they already have trillions of dollars, can leverage trillions of more to buy more houses, rising the prices, rising the interest rates for everyone, and you guys suffer the most.
And it incentivizes the most practices.
Yes.
Like the more you can charge, the higher interest rates you can have, the more you can do, the more you can exploit, the more you can steal,
the more money you have,
the more you get.
The more money you'll make, and eventually you become the bank. And that's what rich people have become, you know? And I really hope that I never kind of go down that path. So it's something that, even as us, like, I think when you make money, like, you'll see a lot of your friends kind of like you can make a lot more money if you make money. And like, you have to really control yourself. That's why I also believe that making a lot of money is actually a curse in a way too. Like, there are pros, yes, you can have a lot of nice things, but you also have a lot more options. A lot more options to do bad things. And they might be clearly bad things, like taking a loan on something bigger, or like, they're not inherently bad, but it's like they can hurt someone on the back end. And I just don't believe in that.
I don't necessarily see interest as evil. I mean, there's a cost to debt, right? There's like a time value on money, as we learned. But I do think, to your point, I think the government, that's where a government's duty is to step in and kind of put those guardrails.
Yeah. Like, it's hard not to sometimes, but I do my best not to ever put the blame on the individual, because any individual is not going to be able to change that system that encourages this stuff.
When people learn, like, to utilize credit in America, I don't know if they even have credit in other countries, or if it's similar to America.
They do, but America is by far the biggest credit fund in the world.
So yeah, right? Back in 2019, like, nobody ever taught me, like, how to go about building credit properly, right? But in 2019, I had friends that was doing dropshipping automation, like Amazon automation, right? So I had a friend, they was all running stores. So she was charging $8,000 to get into this thing, but I didn't have $8,000 at the time. So I started researching credit. I asked questions from all my little rich friends on Facebook. I went on YouTube. So I did research. I went a different route. I got 3 unsecured credit cards for $1,500. I learned about authorized users. But then I think it was within 3 to 6 months, I was able to get $32,000. And then like a year and a half later, I got over 100 grand. That was from having zero credit. So the thing is, if people actually research credit and learn how to build it properly, it's easy to get money. And the cool thing about credit is, if you mess and you fuck up, You could just let it go to collections and spew it all out anyway.
Yeah, but you shouldn't think like that.
No, hold on. Let me finish.
There's
I know
someone
you
that suffers
shouldn't.
at the end of that
No,
system. So.
I understand. What I'm saying is though, right? Go about it the right way. Be responsible for your credit, because don't f up intentionally. But what I'm saying is it's easy to get the money to invest if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you don't.
It's so sorry, just to it's so easy to get the money that people will dig themselves in the hole because they see money.
Well, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, there's a difference between good debt and bad debt.
Of course.
So I was using my debt for investments. I wasn't just buying like
credit cards though.
I was using credit cards and then loans.
Dude, that's
rough. I agree with you. I agree. But
What are you investing in? That makes sense.
Well, that's the thing. So I was okay. So like for example, out of like Amazon dropshipping, right? I was making money on cashback. So the thing was, I was making money and I was paying my bill every single month. So I wasn't just buying like Beats by Dre.
But where did it go wrong? Because I mean, with respect, you're on the other side now.
It wasn't like with my debt. I was paying my bill every single month. I've been day trading since 2014. I wasn't like broke. Even like last year, I had my biggest trading day. I made $161,000 in 3 hours. But the thing was, I was making money at passive income, and I trusted some of my rich friends, right, into a bad investment that they ended up rug pulling everybody. And I currently have a lawsuit trying to get my money back. So that's why I ended up over here. I always wanted to be on that rich side for this episode. You know what I mean, right?
I feel like your story kind of epitomizes like my worldview on this question, is that it's easier to make money now because there's so many ways of passive income, and that's kind of what I don't like about it. Is
that's why you gotta really research ways to buy assets. If you can't buy an asset and you don't have the patience to save up, then you have to make yourself into an asset. But then you just gotta put the time in, really. It's simple. If you don't have the money, you gotta use the time. If you don't have the time, you gotta put in the money. But if you're not willing to give up either one, you'll never make it. And it's as simple as that.
this passive income doesn't really benefit society. You're making money off the work of others instead of off your own work, so you're not really helping anyone except yourself.
Hey, did you know you might get a big cash payout if you were in a car accident in the last year? Yep.
And then I can see both sides to this. They're thinking about who you hurt, like the side effects of what he did. He's thinking about, I don't have anything right now. I need some money. And when you don't have money, that's what it is. You in survival mindset. So it's like he doing what he got to do to get it. Once you have money, it's easy to look back and say, oh, I shouldn't have did this. I shouldn't have did this. And I wish I would have did this better. But when you trying to get in position, you willing to do whatever it takes to get in position. So
we're talking about a societal trend, and you can't disprove that thesis or that premise by citing your own personal story. You have to look at actual data. And when you say it's easier to get rich now than it ever has been, who's getting rich? And if you look at the data, it's the top 1% of the population. And I just thought of some statistics which would help my point, which is to say that, the largest increase in the poverty rate from one year to the next happened in 2021 to 2022. The majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. It's a very precarious life for most of us. And we live in a world where 3 Americans own more wealth than 150 million other Americans, the bottom half of the American population. Another statistic is 8 people in the entire world own all of the wealth, own more wealth and power than 90% of the bottom half of the population. I'm sorry, 50% of the bottom half of the population. That's from Oxfam, and that is 4 billion people. So 8, and this is in 2017, mind you. This is 8 people in the world own more wealth than 4 billion people. And, I just think we live in a predatory political economy. And, yeah, sure, I got it.
Business is predatory by nature. You have to target a specific audience and tell them, hey, I can do this for you. Well, no, business shouldn't be predatory. You're supposed to be helping someone, making their life easier. But it's very easy to see business as predatory because you're giving them things that make their life easier and they begin to feel entitled to that. So then when you're charging them certain prices for it, it's like, oh, this is unfair, or why are they doing this, or it's a whole bunch that goes into it.
A two-part question for you, right? Sure. First part, do you believe in anybody in this half moon shaped circle is better than you?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so if we have personal experiences that we made different kinds of money, do you feel like that could potentially happen for you as well if you apply yourself properly?
I think that it's not about an individual answer to a systemic question. We're talking about institutions, okay? The part that, I'm sorry, think about, you're talking about the housing industry, the real estate, how expensive it is. And, well, the reason for that is because the housing industry has been monopolized by pretty much one corporation, Blackstone, which bought up all the housing, all the private property, and raised all the rents. And so you have to compete with that now. And so, yeah, that's why there is no affordable housing anymore. The homelessness has never been higher.
I want to say I agree with your worldview, like, completely. The reason I step forward for this question is those systems you laid out make it easier for individuals to rise. We cannot all, it's not easier for everyone to make it.
Individuals that have already benefited from generational wealth, from every advantage that...
I think there are a lot of, like, scammy ways that...
Absolutely, and I'm not saying, if you got into
there are a lot of, like, honest ways.
If you had gotten into Bitcoin in 2014, yeah, there's a lot of teenagers that are becoming millionaires, but that's such a small sliver, and it doesn't disprove the entire thesis of this.
When I hear that question, right, the hardest thing I have for me is, I understand not everybody can get rich, but I truly do believe in America, everybody has the opportunity to be rich. Now, you may come from a different background where it's harder to come up, you know what I mean?
Well, but of the two people in question, you have had a harder time, no doubt.
Why? Because my past, though. Why not, right?
And it's because of your race, it's because of the color of your skin. That is because
racism is a systemic
problem in America.
I don't see my skin color as a problem because at the end of the day, though, I still educated myself, I applied myself, and yes, I came up before I got scammed last year, you know what I mean? So as a black person who's at a disadvantage, and let's just say that it really is a disadvantage. That never held me back from doing all the shit.
I'm not saying that you don't have your own personal, optimism for, bootstrapping yourself. I'm saying you're facing institutions that are designed to undermine your livelihood, and that is because of the color of your skin.
And I acknowledge today. I would say historically in America, certainly. I would say in 2024, 2025, whenever this is coming out. I mean, again, we're all here. We're talking.
Yeah.
I've been able to make $2 million a year since I was like 28. Mm-hmm. And there's really nothing special about me. I can spot opportunity, and I think that if what you're saying is true, and I was subject to all, I've never felt that the color of my skin is a
millions of other people that do not share that.
Yeah, I'm sure,
and that's the point of the piece.
It's all about belief at the end of the day.
And also, remember the prompt was, it's easier today to get rich than it ever has been. There was a point where someone who looked like me wasn't even allowed to buy a house. That's not true today. So for me, getting out of that circumstances, building wealth, same thing, even women weren't allowed to have a bank account in their own name until like the 70s in some states.
This is why I love these conversations, bro. People from different backgrounds, because it's like they both making good points, and neither one is necessarily wrong. It's just their own experience. He's more so talking about statistics. He's talking based off of his own experience. But neither one is necessarily wrong. And how could you tell them wrong? I mean, how could you tell them that they're wrong? You can't tell him that he's wrong about his life, but he's got the actual numbers to back up what he's saying. So, you feel me? Like, good conversations, good mindsets on both ends. Even if he not necessarily talking about people in our position that have less money, poor people, if you will, being able to make it. He's talking about rich people getting richer off how it's become easier. But the reason they're rich is because they know how to recognize opportunity, and they have way more money than us. They have the time and the money. So it's like, we kind of have to pave our way to their level. They had a head start compared to where we're at. So of course they're gonna do way better with things becoming easier than we are. We're learning. They've been known this stuff and it got easier. So you gotta kind of take it with a grain of salt. But what he's saying makes sense though.
Then now they can, right? So I think it's easier today.
I guess for what is your kind of dream state then? Like if it's not today, what period in history
I
is
believe that we live in a class-based society. There are workers and there are owners, and we are defined by what we do for a living. And if you work for a living, you're in the working class. And if you accrue capital and passive income, like you all were saying, by the hard work of others, then you are a capitalist. If you own the means of production by which workers work those means of production, you are exploiting them. And that's the only way that billionaires are allowed to propagate their wealth.
Let me ask you this. Would you consider anyone with a 401k exploiting people?
No.
Because they hold stocks that are ownership of a business.
Yeah, that's also an instrument of class war.
The 401k is an instrument of class war.
Yeah, that's, you know, the idea that, I mean, look at what BlackRock does. I mean, they're gutting workers' pensions. They're gutting your retirement funds. It's not the people that have the 401k, it's the people that are doling out these 401k plans. They are the ones that are taking away from the workers.
So the reason why I disagreed with the prompt was primarily based on something outside of finances, which was time. And so a lot of things that I heard was, you know, oh, everyone has access to a laptop, everyone has access to a phone, it's easier than ever with online sources like drop shipping or crypto or things to get rich in today's society. But with the shrinking middle class and more and more people working paycheck to paycheck, not as many people have the time in the day to utilize those resources or even learn how to use them. For example, like I grew up with a military background, like my parents were both military. I grew up working for like Chick-fil-A and as a paintball referee. So I was working a lot of minimum wage jobs, but my parents who were, you know, upper middle class gave me the opportunity to learn how to use a computer in my downtime or take a couple months off from working to be able to learn how to do social media, which is what I do now. And now I have the opportunity to make millions, and so it'd be easier for me to sit here and say, wow, it's easier than ever to make money in today's society. But if you even look outside of America as a country and at the global economy as a whole, there are so many millions and millions and millions of people who are sitting here going, what do you mean it's easier than ever to make money? I'm watching the upper 1% get richer and richer, and I'm still here struggling to pay rent and make food every day.
The fact at the base of what they're saying, all I can say, most of the people who don't have it are paying for what they don't know. Everyone else is a victim of their position, where they are in the world, what they have going on, their family situation. A lot of people are born in very unfortunate positions. You have to be able to put yourself in position. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that you don't have to give anything up. But I'm saying if you want it, and everyone that you want it for, you have to make it happen. Like, you have to literally force it. Like, you can't leave room for maybes. You can't leave room for possibilities. You have to force what you want. You have to force yourself into the position to get whatever it is that you want. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's quick. But there's a way to make it happen wherever you are in the world. Even if you have to leave where you are. Just make it happen.
And so that's why I was like, I don't think it's easier. Like, sure, there are opportunities and a lot of like more people have the opportunity, but overall, like, there's a lot of inequality there that makes it more difficult than ever.
The largest transfer of wealth ever in human history has occurred in the past 40 years. $50 trillion has been basically robbed from the working class, the bottom 90% of Americans, to the top 1%. And that's another example of the disparity, the inequality,
Whose fault do you think that is?
It's the fault of the people that are in charge. Obviously, the people that control the economy and subsequently control the government. It's the capitalists, it's the 1%. That is materially, that is their function in society, to be parasites upon the majority of the population.
There's one thing I have to just disagree on.
Sure.
As far as wealth inequality goes, there's no question. Today, it's more exacerbated than any other time.
Yes.
There's people that have hundreds of billions of dollars. There's people that have nothing.
Right.
So that is absolutely true. I think when I sort of zoom out and I look at the history of the world and the fact that we all have electricity and running water and, you know, like heat in our house if we're lucky enough to have that, I just think I can't look at a time in history where there was a better time to be alive. I mean, like, yeah, times are hard now for sure, and I don't want to sound condescending as someone on this side of it saying that life is easy, because I know that life can be hard and it was difficult for me growing up. But there was a time in history where you get your hand chopped off for like stealing an onion. like that doesn't happen anymore. Like at least not in America.
I think both can be true. I think, you know, the base standard of living can be higher than it ever has been, while also it being harder than ever to escape from the place that you were born into and the kind of like economy that you are a part of.
I don't think it's like you have to pick either or. I think it's easy to be poor and it's easy to be rich. Like it's like kind of like this.
That's what I agree.
That's like a thought. And sorry.
If it was easy to be rich, then everybody would be rich. You know, if everybody could be a billionaire, then there would be no billionaires.
If it's easy to get a six-pack, which it is, it's just consistency. Why doesn't everyone have a six-pack? I don't have a six-pack. You know?
Here's the thing, too, like his analogies about the six-pack is there are people who genetically do not have the ability to have a six-pack, and that's how I see it. There are people who just do not have the opportunity, do not have the resources to just be able to just make money.
I think
that's why you gotta get in position. You have to get resources. It takes longer, it does, but you have to find a way or make a way. Now, I don't know no specific position off the top of my head that one would be in. I could see maybe having family problems or a victim of your environment, but regardless, you gotta make a way. Most people give themselves excuses. They're not actually as restricted as they would make themselves believe they are.
not everyone statistically can become successful. You have to believe it though. Like if you're ever going to become successful, you have to believe it. But not everyone's going to, like even like the six-pack analogy, right? You have to actually believe that you can get a six-pack even though you can't.
I think that's the part that I really agree with, which is why I stepped forward. I feel incredibly lucky to be in the West, to be specifically in America, to be in modern times. We have so much opportunity in America. I'm not saying that it's not complicated or challenging or that times aren't tough. I'm just lucky to be here, and that like this is. Again, just zoom out in the West, in America. It's such an incredible time to be alive.
This is such a fallacy because, like, yes, of course, the United States is the greatest, most wealthy country in the world because we've robbed the entire world.
I'm not disputing that at all.
Yeah, no, I'm saying you're not. I'm just saying you're accurately saying we have the best opportunity in the world, and I'm just saying those are ill-gotten gains.
There's no such thing as an ethical billionaire.
You cannot become a billionaire without exploiting people in the process. So,
yeah, it's impossible to work hard enough to be a billionaire. You will have to extract the surplus labor value from other people. It's not possible to do that at all. Like, I think the closest, we have a weird almost exception, but not really exception in modern society with celebrities where people actually like just prop them up and do that, and they're not necessarily exploiting others themselves. And so that's like the only thing I think where it could be questionable.
Do you have an example, like a specific example of someone that's a billionaire?
No, that's my thing is that they don't reach billionaire status. Because billionaire is so insanely high.
Right.
I think you could be like 100 millionaire ethically maybe through that specific mean, but billionaire is so astronomically high it's impossible to get there without exploiting others. I look at someone like Taylor Swift, who I'm a huge fan of, love her, but her capitalist business practices are insane. Yeah. We're charging like $40 for little things, and we're exploiting people in all these other ways to like make these things for so cheap and do this and
yeah, you become a billionaire by investing, and you don't. It's not through hard work. Nobody becomes a billionaire through hard work. You get it through exploiting people. You know what the difference between $1 billion and $1 million is? It's about $1 billion. I mean, nobody really understands how much wealth is $1 billion, and to think that there are people in the world that have hundreds of $1 billion and they're on their way to becoming trillionaires. The disparity has never been greater, and I don't believe that there's any way you can acquire $1 billion and without being unethical, and I've yet to hear a strong argument in the opposition.
Want to know the secret of authentic content that performs everywhere, not just social? Let's be real. Today's audience is
putting people in a position to where they can, I guess, provide for the life that they want and the people they care about, while so they can accomplish their goals through the opportunity you provide for them, and you're able to accomplish your goal at the same time. Why is that a bad thing?
Well, when I use exploitation, I use it in a Marxist sense, where it's just the extraction. Like, you are exploiting their labor in the sense that their labor is worth a certain amount. You're not paying them what that labor is worth. If they generate $30 an hour for you and you're paying them $20, that's exploitation. If you are taking that $10 and putting it in your pocket.
But then how do you pay for the lights, like the cameras?
I think that surplus labor value, I think workers should have a say in how it's used. And that's my biggest problem, is that the workers don't have a say.
Is there a sense where we could maybe raise the minimum wage to a certain level to where it's not seen as exploitation?
The very concept of earning a wage is exploitative by design, because you could be, like he said, you could be producing all this value as a worker, but you're capped.
Well, then why don't you produce the value yourself and start a business? And then get rich. That's exactly what the people you're working for did. That's how it goes.
What if you get stock in the company? So it's pretty common in the tech place.
Well, how does a company raise the shareholder price of their company? How do they do that?
Make more revenue.
Usually there's traditional finance metrics like revenue, but in general, it's more people are buying
revenue.
By selling
goods and services.
How do they make goods?
Using human labor.
There you go.
I never saw that my life was worse off if the guy who started a restaurant paid me a wage to work in the restaurant and he made more than me. It never bothered me. If the owner of the restaurant was like, yeah.
There were slaves in the 1830s that didn't think they were being exploited as well.
But except it was my choice. It was my choice to go get that job and earn a wage.
But
no, also the person paying you to do that was not a billionaire. A billionaire takes that to the most extreme level, where it wouldn't be taking $1 here of surplus labor value and doing this with it. It's extreme greed, extreme wealth hogging to get to that level.
So I personally know many billionaires. One of my closest mentors, he used to sit 2 desks away from me. His company IPO'd. Currently, it's valued more than Lockheed Martin, Nike. It's called Apple London. It's worth like $158 billion, right? This is the most kind, genuine person you'll ever meet. Ever since he's made money, so he like has a crazy story. He started working when he was 14, 15, made a ton of money, and it was the same thing. My story is very similar, where it's like I started working at 15, I was paid $8K a month, and I actually loved it, not just because of the money. I knew I was making someone way more money.
15, $8K a month. What were you doing?
But it was the fact that I could learn from them, like learn how to get into that position. So the system never bothered me in that sense, because I was like, I can be that system. I can beat that system.
Now, see, sometimes maybe he might have misspoke, but if he didn't, sometimes people are just lucky, like overly lucky. If you're not one of those lucky people, you can't compare yourself to people that are just overly lucky. If he was making 8K at 15, he was destined to be rich. The only thing he could have done was fucked it up. He was destined to be where he's at.
If there's no such thing as an ethical billionaire, where is that limit? Can you be an ethical millionaire? Can you be an ethical 100 millionaire? Like, where is the point at which suddenly I'm now unethical?
That's a great question. I couldn't give you a number. I think $1 billion is way past it, though. I don't think it's anywhere near $1 billion. I can't give you a number, and I don't think every millionaire is an evil person. 10 millionaires is an evil person.
I have a friend who's a solo founder. So he's in the in the tech space, and he on freak accident got really into AI super early, years ago, right? And him by himself, he's sitting with his computer, he's like in his 20s, and he codes some shit, and he creates a company, and now it's suddenly IPOs, and it's worth $1 billion. He didn't do anything. He didn't go out and say, you know what, I'm going to make this $1 billion, and I'm going to go over everybody in the process. He's doing something he loves, and now suddenly the world says, and the stock market specifically says, your thing is now worth $1 billion. Now does suddenly my friend now is an unethical person, and he has to hang himself? Like, what, does he have to give away his money? Like, he's evil. Like, where's that point?
It's easier to make money if you're a white man.
Then you can do everything Jobber can do with a notebook. Think again.
We're making a broad statement. Obviously, it's not. There are people that aren't white that make a lot of money, but I think statistically, generally speaking, it is easier to make money if you are white. It's easier to be advantaged by these institutions that govern public life if you are a white person, specifically a white male. But, goes back to systemic racism. I mean, the institutions are, capitalism has given way to, like a byproduct of capitalism, in other words, is white supremacy. And, we're in the United States of America. We've had, this country was founded upon slavery and the genocide of the Native Americans, the slavery of African Americans, and that was by white people.
Yeah, I think when you look at the statistics, you see certain demographics succeeding more than other demographics, and you can either look at that and say, oh, there's something inherent about those groups, which is just racism, or you can look at that and say, there must be some societal factors that lead other groups to excelling more than others.
And another point is there have been studies made on, the eligibility of people to acquire a bank loan, for instance. And statistically speaking, it's far easier to acquire a bank loan if you're a white person than a black person. And that's just one of the examples. We have it's easier to get a college education if you're white. It's easier to make money if you're educated. Most white people, have a clear, it's all about equity.
I do want to make one thing clear about my worldview, though, is that...
Can I join you guys?
Yeah, okay, for sure. Is that I think on the left, the left of politics, sometimes it comes across very defeatist when we talk about this, and I never want to be like that. I don't want to say a person of color can't do this, can't do that, because that's also literally just racism, and people on the left do that a lot, sadly. But the prompt can succeed, but it's just, it might be a little harder, and that difficulty can appear in a myriad of different ways. And I just think statistics show certain groups are more successful.
I think one thing too I wanted to add that brought me out here, I don't know that it's tremendously more difficult, but it's definitely more difficult, and I think stats show that. And a big thing to me is so much of personal wealth is your home, and there's a huge racial net worth gap, and a lot of that is because of access to property ownership, and that's a big thing that I think stored capital creates more capital.
Right. I mean, we come from a society that segregation was legal 50, 60 years ago. I mean, that's, just a few generations ago. We're still feeling those reverberations, and, white people want to protect their property, their wealth. Wasn't there the whole thing of white flight, in the 60s, or, as soon as society was desegregated, white people basically said, we're going to take all our capital and move out to the suburbs, and we're going to defund public institutions. We don't have any responsibility to them. And, I just think it's pretty fairly evident at this point that, systemic racism is an issue, and, to acquire wealth, it's far easier if you look the part.
Do you think that will change as time goes on, though? Because I think we are for sure trending the right direction, and that's why I hesitated to come out here. But then bringing up the points of historical wealth and then wealth building off of historical wealth.
Yeah, I think it's headed in the right direction for sure. I mean, I believe anyone can absolutely succeed in America. Some people will have a harder path than others, but I believe anyone can. Sadly, I don't think everyone can. I feel like that is contradicted by capitalism, but I do think anyone can succeed despite their circumstances.
He's spitting. Anyone can, everyone can.
Maybe back in the day. I don't really believe it. And I guess it goes up based off of personal experience. One thing that I personally hate is this whole victim mindset that a lot of folks in our community especially have. I hate that with a passion. Because as a black dude, how I talk, how I present myself, some people in the comments gonna talk shit. I already know. You know what I mean, right? My whole thing is I've had so many jobs, and we were speaking about unemployable and whatnot, right? But if you looked at my resume, it's crazy. Like I've been a flight attendant, I've been a truck driver, I've been a perfume salesman, I've been a street performer on the Las Vegas Strip. I used to work background in porn. As a black dude who's done a whole bunch of shit, it's hard for me to think that I'm at a disadvantage when I've done more shit than the average person has.
I agree with you that everyone should have the mindset that they can succeed. I think that's something on the left that we don't communicate enough, is absolutely have the mindset that you can succeed, but that doesn't mean that these systems aren't in place.
And let's say the systems are in place, all right? Because it was worse back in the day, but let's just say the systems currently are in place. I just think it's a belief factor. Like if you believe like, oh, I'm black, I can't do shit, you ain't gonna try.
The statistics tend to demotivate people, and then that causes lack of action, and it's like,
lack of belief?
It's like, for example, like I look at everything as like, I only look at the advantages, you know, like I try to cut out the disadvantages that I have. Maybe I don't even have many, but it's like I hyper focus on like, okay, what advantages do I have and how can I use them? And that actually promotes good action and good results.
That's on an individual basis, and I would agree with you. For sure, everyone should take what they got and make it better. We're talking about society as a whole.
I just think you should take that with a grain of salt, though, right? I think like it's like a lot of people don't take it with a grain of salt. Like I have friends that are like, you know, I'm gonna like figure it out one day. Like, you know, like it is what it is. Like, you know, you're rich. Like you figured it out. Like I can't do that. Like no, you know, like
nobody's saying we should be apathetic about our situation, but we can recognize the material conditions of our society and the institutions that
Of course.
Govern public life.
The way you beat that is like you focus on what are the advantages that you have and how can I act on those advantages.
Keeping in mind the year that we're in, unless there's something I don't know about, maybe that's true, there's no legal system that says, you are prevented from this opportunity because of your race.
If anything, it's the opposite. We have the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
The fact that I see black people succeeding lets me know I can too, man. I might be at a disadvantage, but I'm going to grind it out and do my damn thing so I can get there too.
It's just like I'm trying to think outside of the bounds of just like this conversation where we're taking place in America, like looking at society as a whole. Like, if I went overseas, like I'm going to be at a disadvantage to making money. Like we're not talking about being rich, the problem is making money itself. And I think overall cultures, tend to prefer their own. Like, and that's just across the board. But I don't think that means that necessarily like it puts you at a disadvantage. But at the same time, there are certain advantages that I have because I'm white in America, and I'm very aware of that. But when it comes to like the baseline of just making money, when it comes to like, okay, being like super successful, like we can argue about systemic things that are holding people back and we agree and disagree. But just the baseline of making money, I just had to disagree on that.
Being, a white straight male in the United States of America as opposed to a black, queer, female. What is the society set up? Who is the society set up for?
And even making it more personal, like when people are in positions of power and able to choose who they surround themselves with, they tend to go after people that look like themselves in some way, shape, or form. It's why you see like such a large like boys club at the top of like the Fortune 500 CEOs. It's why they make such a big deal about like women in places of power and women who do these things. It's because by and far across the board, it's a lot easier for the guys to be like, that's a man like me. You have a background similar.
You know what? Like I think America is such a big country that you cannot just generalize that rule all over the country. Like small cities, small towns with different cities, different states, everything that changes like fast.
It's a big country, but there's only two classes. There's the 1% and there's the 99%.
To get started in data analytics, you don't need previous experience or a degree. The Google Data Analytics Certificate.
I am happy. I married my college sweetheart. We've been together for 13 years. I have a healthy son and a healthy daughter. And honestly, everything else is just kind of both. Like once you have that, the people that you love are doing okay. To me, that's ultimate happiness, and there's nothing else that I want other than that. So I'm very happy.
I would say like you asked me this question like a couple months ago, or like maybe a year ago. It would have been a different question. That's why I hesitated.
Yeah, it depends on who you're with. Yeah, I think that, like who you're with in a very close environment is a huge factor that's going to change that. But I could say that I do live paycheck to paycheck, but I know that I do something that I absolutely love and I'm so passionate about. And
what do you?
I'm a filmmaker. This year was when I just decided to study acting, and that was truly like that's my true passion, to be honest. Like I love shooting as a hobby, but dude, like how many people can go to work with a big fat smile on their face? So it's like how many people can do that? Like dude, I know people who've been doing the same job for 30s, even though they're making an amazing paycheck. Everything, they're like financially, stable, everything. They can go to Saint Tropez and they just like you know, it's a beautiful life, right? But he goes to work and he's like, oh my God. That for me is just like, no. Like, no paycheck is worth that.
At the end of the day, to me, it's all about monetizing your passion. Even if there is a job for what you do already, like you could go and find work, I always advocate for doing it yourself. Whether it's a business, whether you want to make movies, films, I always advocate do it yourself. If you can't jump straight to the big screen, start off on YouTube. Start off on whatever you gotta start off on. Just do what you love and find a way to monetize it on your own. Even if you have a job that is what you want to be doing, do it on your own. It just makes it that much more, it adds that much more to your portfolio that you do this in your free time and you've been building this skill in your free time. Just do it on your own. But I'm not saying don't work though. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would agree. I kind of do something I enjoy on a daily basis too. I help sort of serve the underserved and work on an investing platform that anyone can use. And I just moved to California, so there's a lot to be happy about.
Same.
Yeah.
And I teach, you know, and I love what I do.
Well, and to what you're saying too, it's really the people you surround yourself with. It's something like you're the average of your best 5 friends or something along those lines. So I've got a lot of good friends and close family, and yeah.
In the United States, I think we have a lot to be happy about and thankful for. Our homes are not being bombed by the U.S. military, so that's nice. That's huge.
Yeah, I think what you said I just related to so fully. Like, I am fortunate enough to have my girlfriend who I love so much. We live together, we're happy, and we have a life plan that we're working towards, where we're going to go to college and get married one day and have a wonderful family and have a wonderful life, whether we be at the top of the pay scale or at the bottom. We're going to make it work and we're going to be happy. Because, like everyone has said here, it's about the people around you. They matter so much more than anything else.
For me, especially like, you know, in the last year or so, and the reason I said that it would be different if you'd asked me a little bit ago, I was, yes, working jobs that I loved, but a large part of me was committed to those jobs more than the rest of the other aspects of my life. So I was putting work over things, you know, chasing a bigger paycheck, chasing a bigger payout, chasing a bigger accolade, chasing an achievement. And even though on the outside, to everyone looking in, they were all like, hi, you've made it, you're 22, you're doing, you know, all these cool things in social media, you're traveling the world, you're working with the biggest influencers, why aren't you happy? It was because there was a part of me that had put such a pedestal, or put money on such a pedestal at a young age of seeing it as this thing that once I have money, I'll be happy. And I just had denied myself happiness. I had kind of kept prolonging it further and further and said, oh, when I get to this point, I'll be happy. Oh, when I get to this point, I'll be happy. And that was kind of the question I was going to ask was like, if happiness was like more of a sliding scale, would you say that you're 70% happy and like would money change that?
Better ingredients, better pizza. This is Papa John's. Handcrafted specialty pizzas.
Having money is a blessing, but it also can be a curse to the wrong people sometimes because they start asking these questions, and if they don't get answered, they kill themselves. Like that's what happens. Because you're like, oh, I'll just keep making more. Like I never had like a bad problem with it, but I just like really asked these questions, and when I really internalized it, I was like, what is the metric for happiness? Like what decides if I'm happy? And I realized it came down to one simple thing. It was contentment. Like satisfaction and contentment. And not just like with everything, but like if I died right now, would I be okay with it? Like with what I've done, with the time that I've spent, like the way that I'm gonna die, right? Not just about dying right now, like, am I dying in a way that I'm proud of dying? And when I really thought about it, like 2 years ago, I was like, oh, you know, I'm doing this for money. And I had made this money, I was like, okay, I don't wanna do it for money anymore. I want to do it for something else. This is not gonna drive me anymore. And I realized like, okay, cool, like I've gone to a scale where I can take care of so many others. And if I keep crushing it, I can take care of more. So that's kind of like the contentment where it's like, oh cool, even if I don't ever get to take care of like millions and millions of more people, I'm in the process of the pursuit of that, and I'm content with that.
I would almost say that I was happier back when I was working at Chick-fil-A and like being a paintball referee. Like, you know, sure there were like financial problems, but there was a part of me that didn't feel burdened down by like the weight of, you know, supporting so many other people. Like there is that, you know, responsibility when you become higher up in society and you like have more people that report underneath you and there's more people that rely on you for their well-being and their family's well-being and, you know, their financial, where I do miss that part. Like I'll sit in bed some days and be like, man, I remember when life was so simple. And so it's those things that get taken for granted that I wish I would have learned when I was younger. And that maybe would have had me push less hard to earn more because I thought that it was going to fix my problems rather than working on fixing myself first.
You know, I'm actually glad that the both of y'all spoke before I did, because I resonated with that so much though, man. It was, you know, when I had like the bulk of my money, right? I gained a shit ton of weight. I didn't have to do shit. Like I'll just wake up to money, you know what I mean, right? I was real like, my ex, we was living together, and she used to say all the time, like there was times when I was laying, like I had gained a whole bunch of weight, I couldn't even see myself pee, bro. Like it was nasty. Like legit. And my ex was like, babe, you gotta get out for your ass, go do something. And I was like, yo, I ain't gotta, like I don't have to do nothing. Like we good, you know what I mean? But the whole thing was, I remember one day, my ex taught me about macronutrients, and then I was able to get in the best shape of my life. And that made me happy. Then she took us to a salsa class. I've been dancing salsa for the last 4 years. That, I found purpose in that. And my happiness more so comes from the purpose, like the purpose of doing things. You know what I mean, right? So although I don't have the bread that I used to have to do, I am content because I put myself out there and I make the most out of my situation.
Alright. That was a good video. I like seeing the mindsets people be having and how they think, especially people in higher positions than me or where I want to be at. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for tuning in if y'all watched. Let me know down below if y'all got any questions, what y'all thought about what they said today. Shoot, just whatever y'all want to know. If y'all want to see some videos or see me react, get my 2 cents on something. You know, all of that. Just let me know. I'll drop another video soon. I appreciate y'all for tuning in and staying to watch to the end. I'll catch you.